I checked the.
So, welcome everyone to this LinkedIn Live to Unlocking the Power of Mentorships. We've been experiencing a couple of issues, so we had to start this new broadcast. So, I'm not entirely sure how many people of you were able to join. But if you're not here live, you can still watch the recording afterwards. And so, welcome to everyone. The reason we're talking about mentoring today is that mentoring is a really, really important topic for women working in the tech space. So I'm part of a couple of mentoring programs like the Women TechNet Work Mentoring program, She Tech Africa, and also Womentor, of course, which is an important initiative here in Austria. And today I have with me Kristina Jovanovska, who is a cyber defense manager at Avanade and also the co-founder of Women4Cyber Austria. And she will be talking to us about the upcoming launch of the Women4Cyber mentoring program. So welcome, Kristina.
Thank you very much, Ronke. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As Ronke shared, so my name is Kristina Jovanovska. She shared it even with a very good pronunciation, very rare to find in Austria. Thank you for that. As you mentioned, I'm working as a cyber defense manager at Avanade. I'm responsible for our managed security services in the German-speaking region. And at the same time, I'm one of the co-founders for Women4Cyber. And I'm very happy to be here today and share the details of the program. So the ones that we are connected on LinkedIn, I believe, have already seen that we launched the program some weeks ago where we opened the applications. And they're still running for another 24 hours where you can still apply either as mentor or as mentee. I think it's important here to say what we are trying to target as a mentorship program, because as Ronke mentioned, there are many that are already existing, and we are not trying to create something that is already there. So, for example, generally mentorship for women, there is in many different ways already in place. But what we are really targeting here is women that are interested in starting career in cyber. This can either mean that women are in some other IT area or in some completely other job, but have interest to join the cyber world, or are already in some job that is related to cyber and would like to seek for mentorship and grow their career further. So it's really then targeted this niche. Another target is that we are very much focused on Austria. So we did get a lot of messages for people to join from other regions, and there we can also offer alternatives, because obviously the Women4Cyber Foundation offers a mentorship on European level, but here we really want to focus and give the chance that people do meet in person. However, I have to emphasize it's not Vienna only, but it's really entire Austria. So feel free to join the program from anywhere in Austria. And another thing was, as I mentioned before, it's really meant for bringing more women in the cyber world. So it's targeted that mentees are women. However, mentors can be men and women. Because we do want that we can learn from the experience regardless of gender, but we are kind of focusing on getting more women into this area. A little bit maybe more to explain what would this mean as a program. So basically we will have a kickoff call where we will explain do's and don'ts, so that we can give a little bit of structure on the program, that we can help that works for both parties, that the things are aligned. We do ask from the mentors within the entire program commitment of 6 hours. This is because the program is planned to take 6 months period of time, and that is basically 1 hour per month. We do recommend that is done exactly in that tempo, but however, we know, okay, summer holidays are coming, maybe your summer holidays will not overlap and you will end up not having any mentorship, I don't know, 6 weeks. However, the idea is that all in all, you do get those 6 hours of mentorship organized in your own pace and way. And at the end of this program, we plan to have in-person event in January. And the idea is that there we can collect open feedback, since this is the very first version of the mentorship program that we are doing. And before we launch version 2, we would like to collect the learnings and collect what was maybe working not so well, so that we can organize the version 2 better. And this will also be a chance for us to get the people together in person on the event, learn from each other, and also hand in certificates as a thank you for the dedicated time that you chose to do on voluntarily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sounds like an amazing program, and I think this is a very good initiative, especially because it's focused on women who want to enter into the cybersecurity space. But you mentioned there are a lot of mentoring programs out there. And I would like to discuss with you the reason why mentoring is so important for women working in tech. So when we talk about mentorship, why do you think personally that it's important to mentor women? What are the reasons we need this?
I think I'm one of the people that believe in the standard definition of what mentoring is about and why is it important. So I do definitely see it as an exchange of experience and as a giving advice and already seen scenarios to an individual to help them see the bigger picture and to help them for career development. I think it definitely offers us a perspective that we don't have at all times. So especially when we are involved in just some of the tasks of the whole picture and don't see the whole picture necessarily at all times. And somebody who has seen that already can tell us, yes, this might lead to this or to that. So I would say one very big thing is to really gain additional perspective, that not at every stage of our career is as clear. And to kind of fast track some parts of the self-development and the career development with it as well.
Yes, that's absolutely true. So that's some of the many reasons why mentoring is something I would recommend for everyone who is setting out a career. Even if you're already a bit further in the career, there can be benefits in talking to someone who has more experience, or even to someone who is younger than you, because there are different types of mentoring, right? There's, besides the typical one-on-one mentoring that we know, where someone older than you or more experienced talks to you, there is the option of group mentoring, where people share their experiences, or maybe even reverse mentoring when you talk to someone who's younger than you. And one thing I'm thinking about is obviously this is a Women4Cyber. It's a women's network. Of course, we also have men who are part of this network. And you mentioned that this mentoring program is mainly for women in this iteration. Maybe later we will be adding men, but now it's for women. And I'm wondering, are there specific differences in the way women approach their career that makes it necessary to give them a special type of maybe tips or tricks in a mentoring program? Is there anything that's important for women in male-dominated fields to understand?
I do believe that when somebody has a woman as a mentor, hears about different experiences than men as a mentor. Why we do emphasize the program is obviously because we really try to win more women in this cyber area where the diversity is not where it should be. So we kind of try to, by encouraging and bringing this topic closer to women, to make it more probable that they would find it interesting, or at least would better understand what it means and potentially jump into it. But as I said before, there are particular examples that you can explain to women and they will understand immediately because they have been there, they have seen that, right? I mean, one small example would be that when you start your career in cyber and you enter a big meeting room with a lot of men and you are with very deep technical knowledge, it comes to the mind of many people that you must be somebody's meeting minute taker or secretary, and you have to learn to live with that feeling and grow out of it and show them, no, that's not how it is, and I'm also an expert, but somehow you need to work to get there. And for others it's given, and it's nobody's fault maybe, but it's a feeling that you certainly know how it is if you have been there. And it's for sure not unimaginable for men, but like you really need to explain it, that's like they could understand. At least that is my my experience so far.
It's actually a good point, because there's a couple of things in my career where I think that it would have been helpful if someone had told me how to deal with them. And I would probably have progressed much quicker if I had known certain things. And there's a lot of things or ways that women are socialized and behave that are different from men. It's not a genetic thing. It's just the way we approach certain things, like talking about promotions or talking about where we want to go, where we are not as verbal or vocal as men are, and we don't understand why that keeps us from not progressing. For me, it would have been helpful to understand that I can voice this, and talking to a woman who has had this experience will definitely help you. So thinking of mentorship, did you what kind of experience do you have with mentors? Did you have positive experiences that they accelerate your career?
Yeah, I have to say overall I have had only positive experiences, at least towards me. So when me being a mentor, I have had mixed, but for my mentors, I have had only positive experience. And it's funny now when I think about it, because I think actually 95% of my mentors were men. It's maybe natural because like it's more dominated place, but yeah. So in interest of time, maybe I would highlight my most important mentorship relationship, and then maybe the most recent one. I think one of the most important ones was at the very beginning of my career. This was when I just started right after university, my first full-time job at Accenture, and I was a security analyst at that time. And initially I went there thinking, oh, I have studied so hardcore technical university that there is no way I have problems with this. And then when I started working, I thought, oh my God, did they teach us enough? Am I knowing enough? And the transition was not as smooth as I imagined it, because I could not immediately understand, okay, where am I supposed to search for attacking scenarios? How do I correlate right? What does it mean? Because obviously at university, you know what you have learned during the year, and you know what you try from attacking scenarios to search for, because there are maybe framework of 20 that you are looking into. And obviously in real world is undefinite ways of you potentially being attacked. And at that time, I got suggested from a colleague that I should contact another colleague based in London, no, based in Manchester, sorry. His name is Akmal Ali. He was my very first mentor, and he showed me a few links how to get started, how to check whether I'm doing the things good, where to read more, and he made my transition smoother by his advice. So for me that was super valuable push, and it came in a very, very right moment in my career, because a great part of what I have achieved today, it's thanks to that right push in that time. That was like, oh, here you can get started, and this is how it goes. And he knew that because he came from the same background, just he had a lot more experience than me, and then he could very much understand where I'm at in that moment, and give me that advice. So that was for me really the best mentorship experiences I have ever had, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So that is more like on the technical side. And then I have had also different mentorships that were also maybe on the soft skills side. Recently, so last year, I asked one colleague who is also very experienced. His name is Philip Meyer. He's working at Avanade, but not at security. And I asked him whether he would be my mentor. And I did that because I was part of few meetings where I could see how he conveys messages. and how he is very direct, but you never get offended or you never feel like he is trying to say something bad about you. But at the end of the call, you clearly know what the message was. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, wow, that's such an amazing skill. I really need to learn that because I tend to be way too direct. Which is fine for some career levels. They can digest it easily. Others would like that I dose it a bit different. And I thought this is something I need to work on. So then that mentorship program made sense. And
Yeah. So I love those two stories because they show very clearly that at different stages you might need different mentors.
correct,
So the first one, and you talked about this, was someone who actually did the same job that you had. He knew your experience, what you were going through, and could help you specifically with that transition from university to working, and give you inside tips on the field you're working on. And now you're obviously more experienced and you are working on specific things within your personality maybe that you want to improve, and you're learning from someone who's very experienced, and it's not as much important that he is in the same field.
correct.
And that brings me to something we talked about before we started this LinkedIn Live, and that was about how you should choose a mentor. Because you and I, we're both mentors, and we have this experience that people come to us and ask us to be mentors, and they don't seem to have an idea why they want you to be their mentor. They don't seem to have an idea of what they want the outcome of that mentorship to be. So do you have any thoughts on how you should choose a mentor, or what it would, to get the most benefit out of this?
Correct. So that is very important point. I think mentorship, it's really a relationship like also any other relationship in life, and it needs to fit for both sides that it works. It needs to be the right chemistry. It needs to be aligned goals. It needs to have something that it works. And as you said, it only makes sense to reach out if you do see something that you have in common, or you do see something that you could work together on. As I mentioned, the example with Philip, where I reached out to learn particular thing from him. So I think it's very, very important to have the right motivation in mind and to have the right goals in mind. So one of them would be to really identify topics that you could then work on with that person. And as you said, it's very strange when people come and they're like, oh, I would really like that, you're my mentor. And then you think, yeah, but I mean, we work completely in different areas, which is not necessarily bad. It might be that there is something else that they want to learn, but it needs to be defined. Yeah. And it also needs, the motivation needs to be clear.
Yeah. And that brings me to how you think a mentee should approach the whole mentorship journey. So, what are the things you think are important so that they get the most benefit out of them? You already talked about, being clear on what you actually want to achieve here. But what else is like a mentee's duty? Let's put it this way.
I would say it's very important that mentees understand that this is mentees-led program usually, and not mentors-led, because mentors just give you the time and they're available for you. And if you want to do the most of it, then you need to demand the things that are important for you. Maybe
Yeah.
to add some sentence to be clear, what I mean is, so it can be done in many different ways, but I think the mentor can help a lot if he or she better understands, okay, what does this mentee need? Do they need to progress in their career from where they are and they just want to get promoted? Do they search in the cyberspace what is their topic, what is their home, and they can't really find what their most interesting topic is? Or do they seek for very particular skill that they want to learn from somebody, whether it is leadership skill or whether it is communication skill or any other skill that they find important on their way? And I think all of this then shapes completely the mentorship relationship and what the sessions are focused on. But it needs to be initiated and proactively addressed by the mentee. And I think only then is the mentorship program successful.
Yeah. And I think you made a good point here that it's mentee led, because I've had numerous experiences when I was approached, especially, in the big networks through they have the systems in place where people can ask you to be their mentor. And then when you accept that relationship, nothing happens. There is no email from that person. There is no um, date that they want to meet, nothing. And in the beginning, I would, as a mentor, because I was also, when I was still new at being a mentor, I would reach out to them and try to get them to communicate. But now I don't do that anymore, because I actually feel that if someone really wants you to mentor them, they should actually take the time to reach out to you and explain what they actually want from you and set a date and all these things. So that's maybe what's the mentee led is. Of course, you as a mentor, you have your duties too, like you have to make time, you have to make sure that you meet regularly, like at least once a month or something, and try to make room for that person in your life. But it's not up to you to structure the whole thing.
Correct.
So I have certain expectations when someone comes to a mentoring session. I expect that they have thought about what they want to talk about, and it's not just I ask them, so how are you, and they say, oh, I'm good, and then they look at you. So I don't know how you approach your mentoring sessions, but I'm now much more not harder but stricter with my
Yeah,
mentees as
makes
I
sense.
used to be. Mhm.
Yeah, so that is also something that we'll have in the kickoff session with do's and don'ts with the Women for Cyber
Mhm.
mentoring program. So this will be one of the things that mentees will have to do. They will have to be the first ones to reach out to their mentors to organize
Mhm.
the very first session. So I think that is necessary. And I think I had similar journey like you, because at the beginning, I think I was also partially confusing mentor and coach, and I was trying to
Mhm.
really fully organize it, how it should be and how it needs to be organized. And I was really co-leading it. And then with the
Mhm.
time, I realized that's not how it should be. And that's the difference between being a mentor and coach, or one of the differences, that you don't shape the whole program, but you do let the mentee to tell what the most
Mhm.
important topics for him or her are, and that you take it from there, and then you share your personal experience that it's relevant for the topics that were raised.
Yeah,
So I get
such a good
strict like
point.
you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you actually what you think the difference between coaching and mentoring is, because obviously we all have this initial drive to coach someone through their career, and we don't really realize that this is not our job. So what is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
I think coach is somebody who is really trained professionally to do that, and has particular strategies, methods to co-create with you and to really co-lead it with you. So you, as a coachee, you still need to give an input, but the coach has an idea how the journey should look like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for mentor, it's less of educated person to do that professionally, but it's more of somebody who, at least for me, has experience that is relevant to be shared and that could help from personal experience. It's not necessarily the right thing to do. It's from personal experience what that person considers to be the right thing to do, and just shares it as experience, and then you can see whether that's
Yeah.
applicable or not. And that's also one more reason why I think that in mentorship it's very important that it clicks,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very much into how much you can see yourself as that person, or how much you would like to be in that way. Whereas coaching is, I would say, a bit more standardized, or like a bit more methods, like that you need to go through some process, and it's less about personal opinion.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I also I would agree that coaching is much more standardized. There is a very clear outcome. Like and I also think that when you go to a coach, there's something very specific, like some that you want to work on, not necessarily a journey, like in your career, but some specific aspect of your personality that you feel you want to change with a structural method. So
Mhm.
yeah, I absolutely agree that you have to be clear why you're doing this. If you need coaching, you have to approach a different person. Then you have to go to a coach actually. And I think a lot of people are confusing this. So I think a lot of people actually confuse the mentor with someone who will, guide them with standard tips to a certain outcome, which is not what we can do because we're not trained on that.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have this little structure of what a mentorship journey should look like. The 4 C's of mentorship, and you mentioned that this mentoring is like a relation. It's building a relationship. So the first thing in this 4 C is building a connection. So when I first meet my mentee, I try to find out as much as possible about them. So would you agree that maybe the first session should be about learning as much as possible about the mentee or about each other to see if that connection is really there, so you don't waste your time later?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe that the first initial appointment should be to see whether that chemistry and click is there, definitely,
Yeah.
whether you can build relationship. And second thing, what I think initially it's very important is to align on some facts that also dictate whether that relationship could work or not, such as
Mm-hmm.
what are the expectations. If the mentor says I can find 1 hour per month and the mentee says, oh, but I would like 1 hour every week, then it's
Mm-hmm.
from the start mismatch of expectations. And such a things that really need to be aligned in the first session, and you need to see, okay, what you're searching for and what is offered, is it really fitting, yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can maybe like each other very much, but maybe still, even though the connection potential is there,
Yeah.
whether it can be built something after that, it's, I think, very much dependent on these facts. Okay, how often do we meet? How long do we meet? And what are the goals that we mentioned? But I believe we will come to the goals as well.
Mm. No, I think it's a good point. Expectations, because in that first session, and that those are two of the other C's. Is you have to build a context. What are the goals of the mentee? What are the challenges? Understanding what they're expecting you to do as a mentor, and then the other C is competence. Am I competent as a mentor to actually help that mentee through
Yeah.
that journey? Is that something I can really do? And that's all something you have to find out, because it might look good on paper, but then when you
Yes.
talk to them, you realize this is not something I can help you with.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fourth C of mentorship is continuity, which means you said in your case, or in the Women4Cyber mentoring program, it's at least 6 months, and that makes sense because you don't change from one session. So you, in between these sessions, the mentee obviously has to do some work themselves and try to implement some of the things you talked about, and then continuity is a big thing. So yeah, the 4 C's of mentorships. I think it's a good thing to keep in mind, that there are certain things that you have to structure when you're doing mentoring, both for the mentor and for the mentee. So I'm not sure if we talked about. You said the goals of the mentorship journey. Is there something you wanted to add there? Because you said we would be talking about that a little later.
I thought it's covered by one of the C's,
Ah,
but otherwise, I mean, generally that the goals that the mentee wants to achieve, that could be covered by the knowledge or expertise of the mentor. So, for example, if somebody really wants to find which area of cybersecurity is my home and where, like, I can do the most of my career, and somebody wants to really explore that, and then, for example, the mentor is somebody who has only seen one of those areas, then maybe that's also not the best fit. It's the question whether somebody can find somebody who has tried it all, right? But
yeah.
it's at least
Yeah.
the expectations should be set right, that then maybe the mentor says, oh, this is my area and I could help you and better understand this one, but then to explore more, then maybe you need to talk with further people and
Yeah.
so on.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the C's. Really, it's part of the context C. So am I in the right context? Is the mentor in the
Yeah,
right context? Is this the person? And I just, because I looked into my notes, so there's a C that's not mentioned. And I think that's also very important. That's confidentiality.
correct.
So this is something I think we should really expect in this relationship, that you don't take the information you're giving from the mentee, or in the other direction from the mentor, if it's something personal, and talk about it with other people.
Yes, definitely. So I think that's a very, very important point, because mentorship as a relationship only makes sense if it's honest and if it's direct. And I think it's definitely a no-go to use that information somewhere. I
Mhm.
do believe that sometimes the mentors can have good intentions, such as when somebody says, "Oh, I'm really not happy with my job and I would like to do this and that," and then somebody sees
Mhm.
such opportunity, then it makes sense to consider it. But we can always first talk between, uh, so the mentor
Yeah.
and the mentee can always talk between each other and align this. Is it okay that I use this to like search for something for you at my company, or is it okay if I mention this, I don't know, to my boss and ask for you as a profile whether you're fit for us, and so on. So I don't think it's forbidden by default, but I do think definitely it needs to be by default confidential, as long as it's not discussed
Yeah.
different. So
Yeah, I think it's this feeling that you are in a safe space when you talk with your
correct.
mentor,
Yeah.
and you can share honestly and truthfully what is what you want to talk about without worrying that somebody will be talking about you behind your back. And of course, if you give your okay to talk about certain aspects, like maybe also give your CV to someone because you're looking for another job, that's okay. But you have to be quite certain that there's this confidential safe space where you can say something and it will not come to bite you in the ass, as you say. So this besides from people not treating it as a safe space, what other challenges could come up in this mentorship journey? I mean, what other
Mhm.
issues could arise when you don't approach this properly?
Yeah. So I think one thing that we mentioned is the mismatched expectations. So that's definitely one thing. And another thing that we touched on is that both sides are in the relationship for the right reasons.
Hmm.
So I have seen mentors that use that as a platform to self-promote and to
Hmm.
say how they have the greatest career. And as much as that might be the case, yeah, it's not really always motivating to, or it's not the purpose to do that in such a relationship. So it's very different if you bring that in a very concrete context where you say, okay,
Yeah.
this is the way I succeeded it, and that's how it's relevant to you, to what you are searching from me. Different story.
Yeah.
But it's not place for self-promotion. But the same, the other way around, it's also not a place for the mentees that somebody echoes what they want to hear. Because
Yes.
if the point is to say, you are guys the greatest, then maybe you don't need that mentorship program, right? So it's for sure a place where someone needs to be open to feedback and needs to understand, okay, it's my way to learn, it's my way to reflect, and it's my way that
Hmm.
somebody from outside gives me a different perspective that I might not be aware on my own, because the whole idea is to grow and to get better.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a very important point, to not be too stressed of getting feedback, because it's not meant to be bad, but it's meant to learn, and it's a way of learning to receive what could be better.
Yeah, I think this comes back to both sides understanding why they are in this relationship. You mentioned a very good point that a lot of mentors also go into this relationship just to feel good about themselves, because of course, ooh, somebody asked me to be your mentor,
Yes.
so I feel really important. But on the other hand, I mean, this is something that is very someone is putting a lot of trust in you to help them, so you should be very aware that you should not misuse that trust,
Yes.
and and ask yourself, am I capable of fulfilling the expectations that are set in me? Do I actually have anything to contribute? Or because just as we don't want the mentees to waste our time, we don't want to waste their time. So if I don't have anything to actually help them with, I have to be honest with that and tell them, okay,
Yes.
maybe I'm happy to help you with this and this and this, but if you need something else, you have to go to someone else. And yeah, and something else that popped in my mind about mentorship is, and we touched on this briefly, and I think we should talk about this maybe another time because we don't have enough, but is sponsorship, understanding the difference between having a mentor and a sponsor. Because I think that's also something that's very important. And that's something I think we as mentors should bring up in the discussion around, career progression when we talk to our mentees.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, mentorship can be really powerful. And I'm starting to wrap up our conversation because we are interestingly already nearly at the top of the hour. So, mentorship can really be really powerful if you know why you are going and looking for a mentor. If you
Definitely.
have expectations when they're clear, if you have set the goals that you want to achieve, and if you communicate openly. And maybe I just want to reiterate what you said about your mentorship journey with, your first mentor, when you said this was the most powerful mentorship you ever had in your life. How important that can be, because I can imagine that if you had not had that mentor at this point, you might have thought this is not the right job for you,
Yes,
and
I
maybe
might
quit.
would have gotten discouraged, definitely, yes, because
Yeah.
it was just looking like, wow, not as smooth as I thought as transition. So definitely,
Yeah.
yes.
So absolutely, I would encourage every woman who is starting, especially when they're starting out on the journey. And that's when most of us start to suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome. Why are we here? Are we really supposed to be here? To go and talk to other women, who've gone through this process and know what you're experiencing at this point, right?
Yeah.
So, and I want to end this whole session with maybe another call to action to the mentoring program to join the Women4Cyber mentoring program. And maybe you want to add a couple of words as well,
Yes.
just to
Thank
encourage
you.
people.
Yes, I really hope that more people will apply for being mentees, because we have more mentors who applied than mentees. So
Mhm.
please take the chance to use this. That mentors are finding time to do this mentorship program. So I would really like to encourage mentees to apply for this. And I would also like to say that we are not just expecting people who are super early in their career, because as mentors, we have people who have signed up who have like 25, 30 years of experience, right? So even if you have 10 years of experience, then you can still get mentorship of somebody who has even more, who has seen even more situations than you. So I just want to clarify this, that mentees does not mean in our program just really junior people, but it should be also a mixture, since the mentors who have applied are also a mixture. So are people coming with 5 years of experience to people coming with 30 years of experience. So then obviously
Mhm.
different mentees make sense to be their match. Um, Even
Yeah.
though yeah, there will be algorithm that suggests us who we need to connect with who based on what you have entered as input. However, our plan is to do that manually as one more layer of giving it a personal touch, because our idea was not to aim for some very big mentorship program, but more personalized, where we can really get the most of it and really connect the people that fit the most from the ones who have applied.
Yeah. So I feel this is an amazing opportunity to find people who are more or less in the same space you're in the same country, most of them,
Yes.
because that's also one of the challenges of these big mentoring programs, that you're talking to someone maybe in a different time zone or a different country, which is different than when you can maybe meet for coffee in Vienna somewhere and talk face to face. And you mentioned, that you have really experienced women in the program. And I just want to reiterate that it can be really helpful, even after 10 years of being at a job, or 15 years, to have someone to talk to. Maybe you want to take the next step in your career, and you feel that something is blocking you, and you just want to, talk to someone who's really, really experienced. That can be so helpful. And I can just, support everything that Kristina said about everyone being a good mentee possibly for this program. And we would really love you to join and sign up. We need more mentees, and there are some amazing mentors in that program. So don't hesitate. If you were still on the fence, this is the time to do it. So thank you so much for coming on this LinkedIn Live. Kristina, I'm very sorry about the technical issues we had at the beginning. So maybe people didn't find the right link, but we have a recording of this whole session, and we will be sharing it, and people have the opportunity to watch it a little bit later. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
That's very good. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Yeah. And thank you for everyone who has been watching. Have a lovely afternoon. Have a lovely week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.